Right. Time to get down to the Mr. Glow podcast, ladies and gentlemen, where the first update for this episode is we have Canelo Alvarez taking on his first fight in his 20th anniversary. And when I say 20th anniversary, guys, it's going to be interesting. Now, guys, this episode isn't going to be that much, guys. And even though I'm coming close to 50 episodes of the Mr. Glow podcast, after the 50th episode is released, I have another YouTube channel, which I hope YouTube will not flag it for reasons that don't make sense, because I had 3 other YouTube channels that got flagged and I had to get rid of them, and luckily I did, and for reasons, because one didn't have videos and the others did have videos, but 0 views. So I just hope to God YouTube can I don't know what YouTube is doing. I don't understand anymore, but still, when I get to 50th episode of this Mr. Glow podcast, I have another YouTube channel out, which is the Mr. Gloat. It's going to be another YouTube channel rendition, just like Mr. Beast, another YouTuber with over 300 million subscribers. I'm going to make it big on that YouTube channel for my Mr. Gloat. I'm going to make it bigger than I can, and we'll see what happens in the future. It's going to be a smashing hit, and it's going to be great. Well, maybe not smashing than all others, but hey, if it gets to 10 million subscribers on my channel, if I get 10 million subscribers on my channel of Mr. Glow in the future, hey, I think that's a success, and I'm proud of that. So, but when we get to that, we won't get to that yet because I'm not at 50 episodes. And speaking about how many episodes I made, how many episodes did I actually release right now? As of right now, as looking at podcasts, I've done 43 episodes of Mr. Glow podcast, and this right here is episode 44. Now, guys, this episode is going to be like a half an hour long, so it's not going to be much. I only have 3 topics to talk about, and the first topic is going to be Canelo Alvarez. Now, in October the 25th, October the 29th, 2005 is what I meant to say, is when Canelo Alvarez had his first professional fight in a place called the Arena Chololo Larios in Tonala, Mexico. He had some fights there in the arena and in other places from Tijuana. And he did manage to win some great titles there, like the Jalisco welterweight and the WBA Fedecentro welterweight, and mostly the NABF welterweight in 2009, which got him onto the top of the food chain. And it got him bigger that same year, winning other like youth titles and silver titles in the middleweight. And by 2011, he got big. Yes, it stopped him after his Mayweather loss in 2013, but it got him onto that beaten path after some years. Like, he won a lot of fights, and even though some people thought it was like a Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. moment because Jr. did the same thing, but at least Canelo is getting his back together onto that. But the real story is about what is happening in boxing. Now, guys, in 2024, he took on Jaime Munguia, a guy that now has 2 losses during his only 4 fights this year in 2024. And now Munguia is now a Mexican bum right now after his loss against Canelo. I just guess he just didn't get used to it. He just couldn't handle his defeat after Canelo, and then now his career is dead. Even though the buy rate numbers were 560,000 buys that day, which is actually a little bit more than the Canelo versus Golovkin 3 fight, because that had 550,000 buys. Consider the revenue was 79,500,000 during that fight with the Golovkin 3 fight, but this one was 50,400,000. So who knows? And even it was bigger than the Bivol fight where he lost that fight, and that was worth 520,000 buys. Or even the John Ryder fight he did in the King of Coming Home that had 450,000 buys. So not much. He defeated Berlanga, another undefeated fighter, last September. And guess what? After having a little bit of a hilarious moment with surprising, because ever since Turki Al-Sheikh from Saudi Arabia said that Canelo has to face some real opponents and stated that Jake Paul was not a real opponent, which is ouch there, but hey, he does got a point. We finally have the fight on May the 3rd in Kingdom Arena in Riyadh. So yeah, undefeated 23-0 William Sco with 9 knockouts. A guy that's living in Germany as we speak, and he's been living in Germany since. Like even during his pro career back in 2016, he was in Argentina and he started boxing fights there. And then in 2018, during the end of the year, he moved to Germany, but went back to Argentina, and then went back again. And then he was traveling from country to country to Germany and Argentina in 2019 multiple times. But by the end of 2019, he decided to settle in Germany and box his way there. And then in May of 2024, he went to T-Mobile Arena with his first fight in the U.S., and he barely won, even after he knocked down a guy named Sean Hemphill, a guy that had 16 wins and 1 loss, but was a tough fighter to fight in his debut in America. And technically, he had to earn it, with one judge barely giving him a 76-75 because he knocked out Hemphill in the 5th round. And after that win, well, of course, we already know what happened. After the Alvarez versus Munguia fight, the IBF belt was stripped. And so a guy named Vladimir Shinskin went to Germany to fight against William Skull. He was a 16-0 fighter, and surprisingly, even though he was 33 years old and William was 32, they got a good 12-round decision. Judges had 116 to 113, 116 to 112, 115 to 113, favoring William Skull the winner. Now, people think that William Skull is an unknown quantity, and I don't blame him. Like, he's been boxing for 8 years, and he hasn't been taking a lot of good well, technically, I wouldn't say there wasn't a lot of competition. Like, he was the IBO International Super Middleweight title back in 2021. Even though the fighters he fought against that belt and the IBF Latino Super Middleweight, not hot. Like, he did take on Evgeny Shevchenko, a 15-0 fighter that was a promising Russian back then, and he had some interesting stuff. So that was the first legit opponent that William took on against. He even took on another guy in 2019 that was a 14-1 fighter in South America, and that was another good win for him. But everything else with the Sean Hemphill fight and this Vladimir fight, those are the only good 4 fights I could say about William Skull. So him getting this fight with Alvarez can prove to you that, does Alvarez have a year left? Now, people say that Alvarez might fight for another few years, and I'm saying to myself, hey, Alvarez still has his health. If he wants to retire, I think he should, because at this moment, guys, this is almost like carrying the torch. Like Iron Mike Tyson, his legit last fight, not the one last year ago, but his fight back in 2005 in June when he lost against an Irishman named Kevin McBride, and how that fight ended abysmal, and how Mike Tyson decided to say, just, hey, I'm sorry I threw everyone's money away, I'm sorry, and he just left the arena and never fought again. Or so we thought. So, and that was June. And then 4 months later, Canelo Alvarez went to boxing debut at a young age at 15 years old, and he's fighting. So I think it's possible that if Canelo Alvarez does have a couple fights in 2025, I would say at age 34 years old, I would say hang up the gloves after this fight's over. Even if he loses against William Skull, I don't think it would matter. Even if he even wins in a rematch in September, if they have a rematch, which that would be amazing, I would just say hang up the gloves. Hey, you lost a fight, you won the guy, and that's it. And it's possible because at this moment, like, he is in his mid-30s, but I don't think it's over for him. But at this moment, 20 years for Mike Tyson when he fought since 1985, retired in 2005, and forget about 2024. And almost like how Oliver McCall came back last week ago and won another fight, and now he's fighting again in March, which I would just say don't. But yeah, I think if Alvarez doesn't win this fight, I would still say it's a good way to end it in his career, because even if he doesn't defeat William Skull, I don't think it matters. But don't get me wrong, I will say William Skull does need to put things together in this fight, because I will say, though, it's going to be interesting because they're both orthodox fighters. William is 5'11.5", with Canelo's 5'7.5" stature. Interesting. He was 5'7.5". That's interesting because it said that during the time when Canelo defeated Sergey Kovalev for his WBO light heavyweight title in 2019, it said that he was 5'8". Huh. And William Skull is also the same height than Sergey Kovalev, also 5'11.5", I think. But so that makes this fight even more interesting for me to say that Man, Canelo needs to work something out here. Now, I'm not saying that this will be an easy win for Canelo, but I am expecting an upset victory here. Just like how Andy Ruiz Jr. defeated Anthony Joshua in Madison Square Garden 2019. So I am expecting an upset here, but just like Daniel Perkins in the course of Shields' Undisputed heavyweight fight about some days ago, it might be the same domination, but don't forget that one punch can end people's lives forever. So I will say though, the fight's gonna take place in Kingdom Arena. But yet again, we don't know any other fights in the fight card, so we're just gonna have to wait and see as we speak and see what happens.